Well, good evening, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope you guys are having a great Monday evening. I'm actually getting set up for my live stream coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to be looking at, are the Dallas Cowboys going to become the Legion of Doom? 2. Is Dan Quinn actually replicating what he did with the Seattle Seahawks? We're definitely going to look at that and dig deep into it. But, I tell you what's kind of cool. I am Joe the fan. I am just Joe the fan out here that gives you my opinion, my thoughts, and so on about what the Dallas Cowboys have and, what I think, and of course, what I think doesn't necessarily mean anything because I'm just Joe the fan here broadcasting from my basement, not my mama's basement. It's not my mama's basement. It's mine. Well, mine, my wife, and the bank. We all own it together. But my wife basically, this is my part of the house. This and the workshop, definitely, they can be nice and messy because these are kind of like my spots. The rest of the places, well, we got to keep clean and stuff because that's really kind of our stuff. This is really my stuff down here, and that's why it's a mess. So it's kind of cool when you kind of hear great minds think alike. I wish that I was a, famous Dallas Cowboys writer. I wish I worked at the Star and things like that. Those are things that I could dream and have aspirations of doing and stuff. But the reality is that's not going to happen. At least I don't think it's going to happen. But then again, I never thought I'd be sitting here doing YouTube like I do, but I do. But the thing that's kind of cool is from time to time, they have, the old saying that great minds think alike? Well, apparently me and David Hausman think alike. Now, let me show you guys what I mean here. Here we have great article right here about Cowboys free agent signee Dante Fowler is posed to have a big year in 2022. That, I hope that is going to be the case. Let's dig deeper into this article because this is great. Because if this is true, then this is this year's Robert Quinn. Now, let's dig into it. It's not hard to be labeled as a Cowboys' biggest free agent signing when the team only brought in 3 outside players, but nevertheless, Dante Fowler carries that title heading into 2022. The former 3rd overall pick in 2015 NFL draft hasn't had the career many expected him to, but Fowler still has been fairly productive. Dallas signed the edge rusher to a cheap 1-year deal after losing Randy Gregory in free agency. They added him after bringing back Dorrance Armstrong and later on to draft Sam Williams in the 2nd round of the draft. It's safe to say Fowler, who has a history with the defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, will have to compete for his role. But recent seasons suggest Fowler could have a big year in store. Fowler was once a standout player for the Florida Gators, tallying 8.5 sacks in his junior season. Quinn was the Gators' defensive coordinator for Fowler, first season at Florida, having recruited him there. As the highest drafted non-quarterback in 2015, Fowler's expectations were sky high as he came to Jacksonville. However, a torn ACL his first day of rookie camp ended his rookie year before it ever got started. Fowler played adequately for the Jaguars, though he was never able to live up to the standards of being the 3rd overall pick. Jacksonville traded Fowler to the Rams during the 2018 season, and that's when things took a positive turn for the rusher. With Aaron Donald, Ndamukong Suh already fixtures of the Rams defense, and Sam Ikuban and Corey Littleton serving as rotational pieces as well, Fowler was no longer asked to be the primary edge rusher like he was in Jacksonville. It took time for Fowler to learn the new scheme, but he exploded in 2019 with 11.5 sacks and 35 pressures. Fowler also finished among all edge rushers in the NFL with pass rush win rate. That enabled Finn to sign a lucrative deal with the Falcons, reuniting him with Quinn. His former college defensive coordinator would be fired a month into the season, though Fowler's numbers never reached his 2019 gaudy season. In 2 years in Atlanta, after playing for 3 different head coaches and 2 different coordinators, he amassed just 7.5 sacks and also had a total of 59 pressures. Okay. It goes on. Therein lies the reason for optimism. Fowler has become consistent in generating pressures the last 3 years. His 35 pressures in 2019, his 23 in 2020 were both the second most on the team, while the 36 pressures in 2021 were tied for the team lead. For contrast, Gregory was second on the Cowboys last year with 29 pressures, and they've had just 3 players in the last 4 seasons to go top 30 pressures. The important thing to note when looking at these last 3 years for Fowler is that he hasn't been the team's top pass rusher presence in any of those years. With the Rams, Donald was obviously the priority for any offensive line. With the Falcons, had Grady Jarrett, who arguably is the best interior defensive lineman not named Aaron Donald. In each of his 3 seasons, Fowler thrived as a secondary rusher who received less attention in executing the pass rush plan. B.A.M. I love it. David Helman is a genius. He's a genius. I love it. And I agree 100% with his theory on this. I do. I really and truly do. I believe in it 100%. About 5 weeks ago, I was doing the exact same thing and saying Dante Fowler, a reason why I think he's going to be like an 8-sack guy. Brings me to Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler, a lot of people are like, oh man, this mother humper, man, I don't know, man, he's a bum. Well, quite frankly, he's only 27 years old. 27 years old. He's not old. In fact, he's younger than Randy Gregory. Yep. Former first-round draft pick. And when you look at his numbers, and this is where I love using Pro Football Focus. When you look at his numbers, sacks-wise, first year, 4 sacks, 8 sacks, 4 sacks, 2 sacks, 2 sacks. And then with the Rams in 2019, just a few years ago, 11.5 sacks. Well, that's really good. He goes to Atlanta. The next 2 years, he's got 3 sacks and 4.5 sacks. Good thing you can say is he did play in 16 games for the Rams. He did play in 14 games for Atlanta and 14 games. Now, here's the thing, because I know what you're saying. 4.5 sacks.
That's it.
And this guy's a bum.
Yep.
Well, this is where I want to actually dig a little bit deeper.
That's exactly what you're saying.
First of all, let's look at this down here. He played in 14 games, but only started 6. He had those 4.5 sacks, 36 tackles, 21 tackles, solo tackles, 8 quarterback hits, 6 tackles for loss. Pedestrian numbers. But here's the thing, and we can compare this to Randy Gregory. He actually had more solo tackles than Randy Gregory. Quarterback hits, Randy Gregory doubled them, of course, but more time. Sack-wise, Randy Gregory had 1.5 sacks more. But interestingly, they both had 3 forced fumbles. So our numbers here aren't, earth-shattering. Now, here's another little take on this that I think is very interesting.
Very interesting.
If we go to the Atlanta Falcons' defense, their defense was terrible. They were 29th in yardage, I think 26 in points. They were a bad defense. If we go through and we look at the guys on that defense, here's what's crazy is they didn't sack anybody. Dante Fowler led the team in sacks with 4.5. Dante Fowler in quarterback hits was second on the team in quarterback hits. Dante Fowler was second on the team in tackles for loss. So let me say this. When you're game planning against a team, your first thing is who is the best guy that can blow us up? We're going to make sure we take care of that guy. You're going to take him out the game.
Mm-hmm.
So Dante Fowler was actually the focal point of the defense.
Wow.
Because here's where defenses are better. If you've got a big, great pass rusher on one side,
like an Aaron Donald,
he makes everybody else better.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons makes everybody else better because everybody is worried about Micah Parsons. If D-Law is healthy and playing the way he should, he's getting double teamed.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Micah Parsons who's there too,
He's getting double teamed with the running back helping out because you're worried about D-Law, you're worried about Micah Parsons. And then if you have an OC who will be in a second year that's coming up and is great with using his hands, all of a sudden you start saying, well, we also have to worry about that guy. And then if you end up having, of course, the Canadian bulldozer who should be recovering completely from the elbow,
Right.
who can be a force in the middle as well.
Damn.
Now you've got all these other guys here that are also teams are worrying about. You can't double team everybody. You can't stop everybody.
Damn.
So when you look at that from the standpoint of him just going to a defensive front that is that much better than Atlanta, his play will step up. Take him with, of course, now Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, who's now able to work with him in OTAs and so forth, will make him a better player. So in the same sense where we look at a J-Ron Curse, who came to the Cowboys and went from 59 tackles to 101, you could look at that same trajectory. So it's not difficult to look and say, can Dante Fowler end up having, say, 8 sacks?
Wow.
In a rotation with the Dallas Cowboys. That's not a reach. And we've seen over and over again, even from a guy like Robert Quinn, who was, well under 10 sacks every year for like 5 years. He came to the Cowboys and he went up to 11 and a half sacks, got a big fat contract to play with the Bears and rejuvenate his career.
So that's where you realize there's validation there. There's validation, and great minds think alike. So shout out to David Hausman, because I agree with you 100%, bro. I think you are a freaking genius, and I love everything that you said. I aspire to be as good as those guys. And shout out to you for getting up there, buddy. And as always, I hope you guys tune in tonight, 9:00 Eastern. We'll definitely be breaking some shit down on the Dallas Cowboys as they get ready for their next round of OTAs. And I will see you then. Peace.